Here you see, we're going to look at a couple of the self-portraits because Van Gogh loved to paint himself. And in class, I would ask the students, why do you think he painted himself so much? But the real reason is that he couldn't afford to pay any models to come and sit with him because A, he didn't have any money, B, he was a very odd person, and C, we do know he had mental issues, so he didn't have a very good reputation, as we see in the episode, in the village where he lived, and so he would just use a mirror and paint himself. And so that's why we usually see him painting with his face to the side, because he's looking at himself in the mirror, then going back to the canvas. There are just a few others. At least he would dress nicely for his own photos. Own pictures, excuse me. His style, again, as we look at him now, people just don't, look at him with that aspect of the muddy, the brown, the dark, the dim. We think of him as having very broad brushstrokes, brilliant colors. He would often not even mix the colors, he would just take them straight from the tube and go to the canvas, swirling lines to show movement. So he was very, very aware of how he saw things happening, and he would try and make that same impression on you, the viewer, in the way that he painted. And again, one of his most famous paintings is Starry Night. So night over French village where he was. And again, what was interesting about the visual medium of television, that in this episode they were able to show you kind of the process possibly that he went through. We know that he was tormented by seeing things. We know he was tormented by not feeling like he was experiencing life the way other people were because of the letters. And in a scene where the three, Amy, Doctor, and Vincent, lie down on the grass and he just describes for them how he's seeing it, we suddenly see on screen everything kind of blurring and moving, similar to this. So it's a very effective use of television to kind of see what he saw. We also have him painting his surroundings, because easily he could sit at a cafe and paint another cafe, or sit down the street and paint a street. The room where he slept. Now this is a very famous painting of the bedroom at Arles, where he stayed. The nearby church. If you look closely, there's no demonic monster there. And this one really shows his brushstrokes. Again, very broad brushstrokes. I mean, here if you can see how wide the brush is that he's using. And again, somewhat broad. Here you can see they're a little bit shorter, but still not very small brushstrokes, but kind of elongated and very thick. So using the paint right out of the tubes. Before I get into intertextuality, just one final thing. We see that he's going crazy, he has depression. We know from some of his letters that he would get so poor and with no money that to survive, often he would eat his paints, which were lead paints, and he would often drink turpentine. So right there explains some of, as he grows older, he's poisoning himself with these that express themselves in his behavior. So hopefully you've already watched the intertextuality Prezi so that you have an idea of what intertextuality means. We're going to be seeing some images, and then I'll walk you through how we have the intertext with it. There's something else that it's describing that reminds us of some more information. So here it's a visual intertext with all of his paintings. We have these, and this is one of the first scenes, and we see him painting it. we see him in his bedroom at Arles. So again, a lot of the images, if you go back now, a lot of the views on television, the different shots, are intertext because they directly reference one of his prior works. But if you had never seen this work, you would just think that this is a bedroom scene. But if you knew about this work, you would know, I mean, because this is very famous work by him. I think it's second to Starry Night. We've got the three shirts on pegs. We've got the paintings on the wall, the red blanket, the chairs, and there's a little table. So it's 100% set up to remind you of his paintings, and we have that in lots and lots of scenes. Same thing here, the cafe, and the doctor even holds up, or Amy's holding up, sorry, a picture, a postcard that she bought in the museum, the Musée d'Orsay, and this is obviously an intertext because we know exactly where it is. And what's even stranger is that it's an intertext within an intertext. We also have his self-portrait. And then this is an important setup because later on in the next season, when we get the whole story arc of the exploding TARDIS coming along, then it's very easy to paint, have something like this painted, and right away when you look at it, because of the swirling lines, the big brush strokes, the heavy paint, you recognize this right away as something in the style of Van Gogh. On the show, they're playing it as Van Gogh painted this, but even this is an intertext because this wasn't really painted by Van Gogh. So the person who painted it painted in the style of Van Gogh to remind us of Van Gogh. So anyone who, I could just hold this up to any person, whether they're a fan of Doctor Who or not, who are aware of Van Gogh's paintings, and they would immediately think Van Gogh because of this. And that's what the intertext is.